What's up, lore masters? Let's take a look at one of the most iconic and frankly deadly ships of the 24th century. The Daystrom class warbird, also known as a B-type warbird or just Romulan warbird, was an iconic symbol of the Romulan Star Empire, at least throughout the 24th century. In fact, when the Romulans decided to make their presence known once more after being in seclusion for so long, it would be a warbird that would stand toe-to-toe with the Enterprise in the episode The Neutral Zone. The Daystrom class starship continued to be a major threat to Federation starships for most of the TNG and Deep Space Nine eras. This would be until the arrival of the Dominion, of course, when the Romulan Star Empire would shift its focus to an even bigger threat. In fact, identifying the extreme threat posed by the Dominion, a fleet of Daystrom warbirds, along with a fleet of Keldons, attempted to destroy the changeling homeworld. This would of course fail, with most of the warbirds being destroyed. We would also see 3 warbirds under the command of the Romulan military attempt to capture the experimental Prometheus-class vessel. A Tal Shiar operation would have 3 warbirds attempting to steal Federation technology. Oh, dang it, I'm sorry guys. A completely and utterly rogue group that somehow was able to get 3 Daystrom class ships, again, the strongest and most powerful ships in the Romulan Star Empire at the time, but totally not connected to any official Romulan entity. Yeah, that's the ticket. Anyway, this rogue organization would use these warbirds in an attempt to capture the USS Prometheus, and then get their ass handed to them because you don't mess with an Akira class and a Prometheus class at the same time. Just saying. Though even with the threat that the warbird did pose against Federation assets, it would turn out to be invaluable when the Romulan Star Empire joined an alliance with the Federation against the Dominion. This was of course due to Starfleet assisting, whether Starfleet meant to or not, in the assassination of a Romulan senator, which was then blamed on the Dominion. After joining the Federation, Romulan warbirds would be prominent in several key battles, including the First and Second Battle of Chintaka, as well as the Battle of Cardassia. As I had stated before, the Daystrom was one of the most advanced warships in the Alpha and Beta Quadrant during the TNG and a lot of the DS9 era. Classified as a battlecruiser by Starfleet, which is probably inaccurate, the warbird is described by Memory Alpha as having a horizontally split shell hull design with a prominent forward section. The bulk of the ship's overall size is incorporated in the open shell, which resembles 2 separate wings that meet at either side of a warp nacelle, at the tail and off the neck, which was connected to the head of the primary hull section. The head would encompass the bridge, main engineering, and most primary weapon systems. And yeah, that was the best description I could find of the warbird. It is from Memory Alpha, and it even confuses me a little bit. On that topic, let me have a quick aside. Many people are easy to anger or scoff when I seem dismissive of what the original designers of a Star Trek starship says. A lot of people also take my words wrong, as if I'm being disrespectful. The fact is, I actually have a lot of respect for the designers of the ships and those who do visual effects. They do work that I never could, but the reason why I generally don't take the word of the people who design the ship as gospel is because of situations like this. Andrew Probert, designer of the Daystrom, has stated that he designed the warbird to have a length of 1,353 meters. He also designed the ship so that it would meet the warp standards of having the nacelles be equal to each other. This is so that a warp bubble can be maintained. There has to be some equilibrium. However, in the show, the model was scaled down and also manipulated so that both of those things that he wanted to be true ultimately became untrue. Because of what the writers decided to do, we can't be sure of the size of the ship because of inconsistent writing and its use on screen. And the way the warbird is designed, in some episodes, shouldn't be able to maintain a warp field. This, my friends, is why I do not commonly accept the word of the designers for the ship, but look at what it does on screen. Back to the ship itself, taking aesthetic tips from the Borg, the Romulan warbird, really anything Romulan if we're honest, would have pronounced green coloring with brown and beige added in for flair. A warbird would definitively have a main bridge, ready room, ward room, engine room, torture chamber, procedure room, shuttle bay, cargo bay, and crew quarters. Interestingly, when analyzing the bridge, it would appear that there are at least 4 different configurations. I've seen some evidence that there may be more, however, I've not really been able to confirm that as of the upload of this video. So we're going to just go with 4. When looking at the different bridge configurations on a warbird, there doesn't appear to be any rhyme or reason to why they are different. If I had to venture a guess though, I would say that a ship may be modified based on its use and who's in command. Tal Shiar warbirds may have different modifications than that used by the military. Additionally, high-ranking commanders may have specialized warbirds as well. We just don't know. It does sound better than admitting the executives of the show are just cheap and don't care about consistency of the bridge. Regardless of configuration, the main bridge does have some consistency. You'll generally have a main view screen against the forward bulkhead of the bridge itself. The navigation systems are generally located to the left of the view screen, with the commander and sometimes sub-commander in the middle of the bridge. Tactical would either be on a console against a wall, or would be near the executive officer, possibly both. In some instances, the command chair would be towards the back of the bridge at an elevated position. The ready room is directly adjacent to the bridge and also varied based on the need and the commander. It could either be what we commonly expect from a ready room with a desk, window, table, and couch, or a mini hive center with consoles that would have readouts from the bridge. Because why be on the bridge when you can be in your own personal room and have your own hive center? The wardroom is the meeting place for officers and dignitaries, similar to that of the observation lounge on the Galaxy Class Starship. Main engineering, or engine room in the Ryansu, is where we find the quantum singularity that powers the entire ship. Interestingly, main engineering was, as stated before, in the head of the ship towards the front. This is of course versus deeper within the vessel like we see in the Klingon and Federation designs. Also, while we know the D'Deridex utilizes a quantum singularity, we can't be sure if other Romulan vessels likewise do, or if it's unique to the warbird. In fact, given what we see in the movie Nemesis, we see a dilithium mine, and looking at other ship designs, it seems probable that other Romulan ships utilize similar matter-antimatter warp cores, like what we see with the Federation and Klingon Empire counterparts. That's just speculation though. I'm open to your thoughts, let me know in the comments below. The procedure room was basically a torture chamber. Yeah, a torture chamber. They try to say it's for other things, but they tortured people. The shuttle bay would be 2 decks down from C deck in section 25. They also had cargo bays, which was apparently a big deal, so there's that. The crew quarters would be located on C deck and are generally sparsely furnished, though, like other sections of the ship, there could be other variations of the crew quarters depending on the officer and the need of the ship itself. As we've discussed before, the propulsion system of the warbird utilized a forced quantum singularity. Unlike matter-antimatter systems, it appears that a forced quantum singularity would not need to be refueled nor replaced. However, once the singularity is started, it can't be stopped. Additionally, once damaged, the singularity could cause damage to itself and any other ship nearby. And of course, if damaged, it would mean that the ship might be able to be detected while cloaked. Oh, and there is the small problem of it causing spatial issues and could sometimes impact time itself. You know, the little things. Additionally, while utilizing the cloak, the radiative emissions from the warp engines had to be precisely balanced. A slight misalignment in any of the warbird's nullifier cores would create a small magnetic disturbance, making it possible to be detected. Generally, a warbird would only travel at warp 6 while cloaked, but could maintain a speed of warp 9. This speed could be increased to warp 9.6 with considerable and irreparable damage to the propulsion system. The ship additionally had impulse engines, though interestingly enough, none are observed anywhere on the ship itself, which may mean that the singularity allows for some form of advanced movement that a normal matter-antimatter warp core does not. And let me just take it aside, yeah, I know, it just wasn't included on the model. But again, what we see on screen is what's important, so they use impulse somehow, and without the engines being seen, we have to explain it away. The tactical systems of the D'Deridex warbird would include directed energy weapons, and most would be located on the head of the ship. This would of course include, but not be limited to, a disruptor array capable of firing both beams and pulses, a torpedo launcher in the exact same spot as the disruptor array, as well as phasers and phaser arrays. There would also be at least 3 additional arrays located on the top upper neck support, along the bottom lower neck support, and the tip of the nose. The warbird would also come with a cloaking device. This device could be used both defensively and offensively. Though, as has been stated, due to the singularity on board, it would be harder for the warbird to stay hidden, especially at warp. Based on the research that I've done, the cloaking device for a Dideridex was very, let's say, touchy, making it easier to detect the ship versus the Klingon counterparts. The vessel would also have standard shields, nothing to write home about. If I can take a moment, in Space Stock's video and breakdown, of which I suggest everyone go watch, it's a great video, they state that the Romulan warbird also has substantial armor. Now, whether this was an eloquent description of the normal armor we see on a warbird, or if the warbird had some kind of specialized armor that would give it protection, I really couldn't confirm. If I had to make a bet, I think Space Talk was more just saying that it had its standard armor, which of course would be substantial given how advanced the ship was. When we look at other subsystems we see on screen, the warbird would also have a tractor beam located on the lower neck and possibly other areas. With all of that out of the way, I'm going to take a moment to address a controversy that commonly comes up. That is to say, I want to discuss how powerful a Dideridex is, especially versus that of a Galaxy Class Starship. I'm going to be providing a counterpoint to a website that I will often use as a reference site when doing breakdowns on Trek and other materials. Let me say this, because it seems to confuse the hell out of people when I do this. More likely than not, when I am referencing another source and countering it, it does not mean that I dislike, hate, or think that source is not worth your time. Generally, if I reference a source, whether to give information or to counter it, it's because I think it's a site or channel worthy of your time. This source is no different. The Daystrom Institute Technical Library, which is run by a fan of the channel, and for the life of me I attempted to see if I could reach out to the owner but never really could, states on their site when referencing the warbird that, quote unquote, most people assume that a warbird outguns a Galaxy class by a considerable factor. But I've never seen anybody provide an actual specific bit of dialogue to support this. On the other hand, we have seen that when the Romulans wanted to capture or destroy the Enterprise in The Defector, they sent two, emphasis by the writer here, two warbirds, and these were chased off by the threat of having to deal with 2 or 3 Klingon birds of prey types in addition to the Enterprise. The writer goes on to say, I assume that the warbird is about 10% weaker than that of a Galaxy class. So, on the first point, there is actual dialogue to support that a Romulan warbird is more powerful than that of a Galaxy. In the episode, The Neutral Zone, a Romulan commander points out that if they had wanted to destroy the Enterprise, it would be destroyed. And this was on a standoff between one Dideridex and the Enterprise. Now you could state that it might be because the ship was cloaked before and the Enterprise couldn't detect them, or perhaps it was just idle boasting by that officer. Another example is during the episode The Defector, when the Romulan ship fires on the Enterprise. Worf wants to play the ace card of the Enterprise, but Picard states that they were only being tapped on the shoulder, insinuating that the warbird could have done some serious damage to the Enterprise. Again, you could say, as the author does here, that it was 2 warbirds and perhaps Picard was scared because there were, again, 2 of them. But let's take all of this together and consider it. Every time the Galaxy-class ship comes face-to-face with a Dideridex-class starship, it's always treated seriously. The Enterprise always feels like it is facing real danger. It's possible, and perhaps likely, that there is no dialogue that directly states that a Romulan warbird can take on a Galaxy-class ship. But everything else, everything we look at, the context of every scene, makes it feel like the warbird is threatening. And the crew of the Enterprise? They certainly act like they are facing imminent destruction if they make a wrong move. Those are my thoughts though. I'm going to leave the website in the description below. Check them out, read what he has to say, and give me your thoughts. I could be completely wrong on this. Certainly the Daystrom Institute Technical Library makes some compelling arguments. It's worth your time. Going back to the statistics of the warbird, according to the Deep Space Nine Technical Manual, the warbird has accommodations for up to 1,500 officers, crews, and troops. And we've discussed this before, but it does state that the manual is 1,041 meters long, 772 meters wide, and 285 meters tall. Named ships of this type include I can't even say English words, let alone these made-up ones. Here's a picture of Memory Alpha. There you go, those are the names of the ships. For those who intend to be on Jeopardy, the Dideridex-class ship shows up 17 times in TNG, 10 times in DS9, 3 times in Voyager, and once in Enterprise. Yeah, again, Enterprise. And yet people laugh at me when I say you could possibly see these ships on Discovery. The Dideridex is probably one of the coolest ships that is not a Starfleet vessel. I actually think it may be near my favorite non-Starfleet ship. But what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. Hey guys, thanks so much for staying this long. If you like these long-form videos, then the best way to ensure that I can keep doing them is to become a patron at patreon.com/Lore Reloaded. As soon as I'm able to get up to 2,000 a month on Patreon, I'll be able to more focus on how long the videos are and not reaching some algorithm's standard. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. And guys, I'm going to see you on the next Lore Reloaded.